Good morning. Hope you had a good weekend. Today is Monday, March 23rd. Like I said, I hope you guys had a good weekend. If you hear that thumping, that's my dog next to me wagging her tail. Um, so as of right now, the stream is organized. Plan book is up to date. So I hope that proves to be a little bit more comforting and organized for you when you start looking at the assignments. Um, so I'm going to talk to you about what I know about the whole shutdown. I'm going to talk to you about what's due today. I'll talk to you a little bit about chapter 2 of The Outsiders, a couple of long-term expectations, and I'll go over my contact information one more time, and that'll be it. So what I know about where we are for school is probably expect to go past the 27th. Nobody's come out and formally said that, and I'm certainly not telling you that right now, but Great Falls High is planning for physical pickup for people who don't have internet access, people who don't have computers, starting on Monday. So even though that hasn't formally been announced, the writing's on the wall. If you look at news conferences from Governor Bullock, that the writing's on the wall for that too. Going past the 27th would call for standards and things like that. So just be aware of that. I realized that from your responses that not a lot of you like this. There's a handful of you that do, but a lot of you are frustrated with this. So that's what I know about that. Speaking of the responsive rights, thank you all for your response. I try to respond to all of you. I know this isn't the most ideal situation, but you really do have to know that you are doing your best for it. Even though you're out of school, I'm still grading you on mechanics and elaboration. So 1 to 2 sentence responses that are 3 or 4 words doesn't cut it. Using lowercase i's and spelling errors that Google identifies for you doesn't cut it either. So you have the time, go back, polish it up before you make those submissions. So what you have today is a reflective right. This is going to be the last one about the coronavirus, and then your reflective rights from here on out will be geared primarily towards topic content such as the outsiders in English. And then you have chapter 2 comprehension questions for the outsiders as well. For those of you who have a tough time answering those online, you can certainly use the outsiders packet. And you have chapter 2 here, page 5 and page 6. And you can just simply take a picture of that, submit it to Remind. All of a sudden that went dark. You can send it to Remind, or you can just share it in a document in Google Classroom. So those are the 2 things that are due today. The quarter ends on Friday. I explained that last week that your book reports are due for everybody on Thursday. So if you have more than one book to give a report on, you can make a copy of the form, and I'll put those forms out on Google Classroom on Wednesday. So right now we're in chapter 2 of The Outsiders, and that's where Ponyboy, Dally, and Johnny go to the drive-in theater. And there used to be a drive-in theater in Great Falls. It used to be over. It's called the Starlight Drive-In Theater, Twilight Movie Theater or Drive-In, and it's over by like the City Brew Coffee. It's over on the west side by like 2J's Market. That's where the Twilight Center is now. That's why it's called that. And it's ironic that we're reading chapter 2 right now about the drive-in because drive-ins are kind of a thing. If they're around, people are going to those today because you're isolated in your car and you don't have to be around people. But if you don't know what a drive-in is, it's a big screen. People drive up in their car, they put a speaker outside into their window, and they listen to the movie. So the last movie I saw, The Twilight, I was a kid, it was Who Framed Roger Rabbit. The last movie I saw at any drive-in was The Dukes of Hazzard, like in 2000. So there's a drive-in movie theater, and then there's drive-in food, and they talk about both of those in chapter 2. We have drive-in food here. We've got an old car hop like at Ford's on the west side, and then Sonic is technically a drive-in as well. I hope you're reading The Outsiders with different eyes than what you read last year, and thinking about how could this apply to you today, especially since you're about almost 2.5 months away from being freshmen. You see this wide variety of people at Great Falls High. So is it uncommon for stereotypical cheerleaders or popular people to be friends with hoods or lower class people, stereotypically, because that's what we're talking about in The Outsiders. Ponyboy and Cherry obviously have this connection. Spoiler alert, they don't date. But is that real? 50 years ago, this book was written, and they don't get together. Is that accurate? Could that ever work out? Could that relationship ever work out of a popular girl dating a lower class guy in this case? I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that. So be thinking about that in your kind of 14, 15-year-old second time that you've read this. I'm not going to be collecting this day by day, but it is something that I'm going to expect by the end of The Outsiders. So what I'm going to ask is that you do keep the hero's journey. So you have Ponyboy's hero's journey right now. His status quo is it's Socias versus Greasers. So if you're doing this at home, you can add things right now. Okay, he hasn't really had the call to adventure yet, so you can't add that. But that is something that I'm asking you to continue as you read the novel. As you're reading it, you're going through your own hero's journey too, and I talked to you a little bit about that. I put that link onto Google Classroom about the speaker making that analogy of the hero's journey of what you're going through right now. So as a reflection, I'm going to ask that you keep your own hero's journey too. So almost a week ago, you were in a normal world, going to school. You had your status quo. The call to adventure came last week, a Sunday, is that you're not going into school anymore. Okay, not anymore, but this week for the next 2 weeks. Do you have assistance? Hopefully I'm some assistance to you. That departure from your regular life to this adjustment to online learning. And what have your trials been? What have you been doing? So by the end of this whole process, I'll ask you for your own personal hero's journey as well, because you're going through that. It's something that you're living through history. You're making history as you go. That's really about it for right now. Like I said, I'll do this every day just to give you more of a heads up of what's due and go over questions and things like that and what I want you to be taking away from The Outsiders as we read. If you have another concern that you guys had for in your reflective responses was immediate feedback. And I know you can't get immediate like a text message, but I think I'm pretty diligent and pretty good about responding to emails and to Remind. So if you know somebody who hasn't signed up for Remind, they text @HopEnglish to 81010. So that's the code for Remind, and I'm pretty good about that. Email jerry_hopkins@gfps.k12.mt.us. And I'm pretty diligent about responding to those throughout the day as well. The voicemail that I check about once a day is 268-6267. And I can call you back using that as well. So if you have any questions, get a hold of me. Otherwise, I hope you're doing well, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.